Welcome back to SPD 911. I am your host, Dr. Jake Taylor Jacobs, President and COO of SIPS Healthcare. In this show, it's all about tackling the toughest challenges in sterile processing. Whether you're on the front lines or making high level decisions, we are here to equip you with real solutions to rescue and elevate your department. Each episode, I am joined by our Director of Clinical Compliance, the GOAT, Sharon Greene-Golden, a leader in compliance and regulatory standards, and our resident director of clinical operations, Derrick Jones, a specialist in operational efficiency and team development. Together, we break down the critical issues affecting CSPD and provide actionable strategies to help you stay afloat. SPD 911 isn't just a show, it's your emergency response team for sterile processing. We tackle compliance concerns, streamline operations, and help you grow as a leader in the field. If you want to participate live and ask your questions, join the Executive Edge community. It is free and the only way to engage with us directly at spd911.com. Not only that, Sharon Greene-Golden, in her awesomeness, has been able to get this show qualified to earn your CEUs. What does that mean? When you watch the show, your license is still going to be good to go. So if you go to spd911.com and join our Executive Edge community, you'll get access to that, as that will be the only place that you can actually see our actual live video content, so that you can ensure that you have everything that you need to move forward. Join us live every week on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time to catch the greatest Central Sterile Processing live show on planet Earth. Team, how's your week?
It's
How is
great.
your week? It's going great?
It's going great.
Yeah.
So you know how we start
Mine's a
the show.
little
Y'all have
rough start.
oh
But go ahead.
you said you
I
said
got a little
SGG
rough.
said great. He said great. SGG, why he get jealous of your greatness? He said you said great. He said, oh great, oh great. Derek, it's only
It's a little
Wednesday.
rough.
It's only Wednesday, brother.
Hey, and I'm looking forward to Friday. But everything's a blessing. First of all, thank you, SGG, for your efforts and all your hard work with making this show or giving us an opportunity to get CEUs. I mean, that's extremely important, and it's beneficial to many of our SPD technicians and partners around the area, as sometimes our days, our work life, impacts us and inhabits our ability to get those CEUs, and we're always rushing at the last minute. So, man, this is amazing. That is awesome, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
CEUs on the house, SGG.
We were
Yes.
good. We were able to do it. Now, right now, this is just with HSPA. We're working on the other accrediting organization, credentialing organization. But right now, you'll be able to get a CE for HSPA. Continuing education is important. And this one, you just have to listen and send questions as you need it through the process, and we'll be able to answer them. The other thing is, you don't have to take a test. You just have to listen.
Listen to the song here in my heart. Yeah, I was gonna sing and serenade to you, SGG.
Oh, okay.
I don't want Derek getting jealous, because if you find out I got another talent, he may jump off a bridge. And we want to keep
Well,
him
I got a
safe.
keyboard. I got the keyboard, and you see the mic behind
I
me.
see the
So
mic.
go ahead,
You
carry on.
gonna pimp me out, DJ? You gonna be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm a manager.
Right. We work together.
Oh, yeah. So for some of you all that are new to the show, we break down scenarios and questions that we either see online or that has been communicated to us in our own community inside of spd911.com. So when we look at these scenarios, the overall goal is to take our experts here. You have Sharon Greene-Golden and Derrick, and allow for them to actually give you insight on what they would do and how you should address a situation that could be similar to your department. So I have one for y'all. Y'all ready?
Okay.
Scenario number one.
Let's go.
Cybersecurity breach in SPD. A ransomware attack. It's going to get y'all. A ransomware attack locked the SPD's tracking system, delaying surgical surgeries and putting patient safety at risk. Leadership realized that SPD's digital tools had zero cybersecurity protocol in place. How can SPD departments strengthen their cybersecurity to protect vital systems and patient outcomes? I hope this is gonna stump you. Who gonna?
No, first of all, before the system was put on the IT program, they should have made sure they had cybersecurity hooked up. Nobody let
Mm,
any program like that into their hospital without IT taking full control of putting it on the server. So that was a disconnect communication with IT, the tracking system, and the hospital as a whole. But going past that, if you have down, which what happens is if you have a lockdown due to cybersecurity locking it up, you should have a backup plan. You have to have a backup plan, whether it's cybersecurity lockup or not. So even though we're dependent on technology and we want to go and click the button and print the print sheet, I always had backup count sheets of every tray that we processed.
talk
And we
about it.
just have to go back to the olden days where you took and made a copy of the sheet and you took your pen and you marked every instrument on that sheet so that you would have a count sheet to put into the actual tray. It should not hinder our ability to process a tray for patient use because we know things will happen. If the electricity system goes down, and your backup lights come on, your autoclaves are supposed to be on the backup system so that they continue to work. You should be able to continue to process trays for patient care because the likelihood is that they're still going to function at some point in the operating room. So us saying we can't put the tray together because we had a cyber attack, the electricity went out, Mary Lou took all the unplugged all the machines, is not going to work.
Y'all come get your auntie. Y'all go get your auntie.
Right. And what
Yeah.
I'll say with that is I'll piggyback off her because she's spot on. I think the when you looking at EHR systems and most systems in hospitals, it's almost a requirement to have some form of a cybersecurity check system that creates firewalls and other barriers to prevent from risk of threat from outside entities or agents. So it's important at that point that we work with our IT departments, or if a hospital doesn't have an IT department, they have some sort of agency that manages their firewalls and databases. And like Ms. Greene-Golden mentioned, um, we gotta have a restoration and backup plan, right? How do we restore these things? What are the steps, to restoring our data or saving our data in the event that we're at risk and we're a threat of a cyber attack? And then we also need to teach our staff and our team and educate our teams on what to do. Where are the backup count sheets stored? What are the protocols and how often? What does it look like to be under attack? What do we do in the event of a cyber attack? Do we touch the computer? Do we turn it off? Do we shut it down? Do we erase everything? So it is our job as leaders in our departments to educate our team and our staff on what that looks like, and then also provide routine training to ensure that we are knowledgeable and understand what the protocols what the protocols are in the event that our equipment or computers become of risk.
So in short, y'all are saying being proactive with understanding that yes, we love to have technology, but we have to still be able to
Yes.
operate and exist as if the technology will break down at any day.
Yes.
Show
Yeah.
Yes.
must go on. That patient
So
is in
much
that
going.
room.
Yeah.
Trays need to be processed. Um, there are all sorts of checks and balances to ensure the quality and integrity of equipment. We follow those next steps. And I know Ms. Greene-Golden, our wonderful compliance person, understands all of that.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say is that when you have a backup that is on paper, you must remember as a leader to every once in a while, I used to do it every quarter, go in Check the sheets because you may have made changes. You may have removed instruments or added instruments. So your backup has to be kept up to date. You cannot just let it go, put it in there and never come back. You must be proactive and keep it up to date by making the changes as needed. But a cyber attack should not stop SPD from functioning, just like the cyber attack will not stop the OR or the hospital from working.
And I typically, you all love to tell leaders, we plan for the rainy day always happening, and we pray for the sunny day sometimes coming. And
Yeah.
so the thing is, a lot of us, we plan for the great things, and then we pray that the rain will go away. And it never works that way. And the best place to be is proactive to everything not working, even if we don't have the machinery. What do we have in place to make sure that we can ensure that this department can move forward, so we're not overly reliant on just one process working? Which is why we're getting these trainings, you're getting your teams up to date on different protocols to use. It's not a waste of time to teach them other things or other ways to execute doing the same task, because you never know when you may actually need it within your organization. That's why building and training your organization every single day and working on different skill sets is important, because you never know when it's going to rain. But when it rains, you want to make sure that everyone knows how to use an umbrella, right?
That's right.
So scenario 2, okay, y'all did it. Y'all did a good job. Okay, let's see if I can get you with this one, right?
Come on with it. Come on with it.
Scenario number 2, the green pressure, sustainability versus safety. Here's a scenario. Hospitals are demanding greener practices. SPD generates tons of waste, wraps, trays, chemicals. But leadership wants an eco-friendlier option without sacrificing sterility or compliance. The question is, how can SPD balance environmental sustainability with infection control and sterilization standards?
Go ahead, Derrick.
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. But so the first thing that comes to mind for me is I look at those light blue wraps that we're using, that we're throwing away. I think we can go through a couple of hundred in some SPD facilities throughout the week. We can go through a couple hundred of those, which is extreme waste and use of products. When if hospitals will look to at the opportunity of buying more instrument containers that are reusable or reusable products as a whole, we can probably, number one, stop the excessive amounts of waste, and then number two, save costs in the long run, right? And opportunities to put more money and save for the department. And then we need to optimize and standardize our trays. I know it's difficult, it's hard. We have 19 variations of Dr. Booty Boo tray, and and it's so much waste because we're over ordering. When we can standardize those instrument sets and reduce the amount of instruments that are lost, waste, or disposed, that due to damages, repair, and all of the above.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one, there are companies out there that will recycle the blue wrap. The hospital has to be willing to go into that blue wrap recycling program. So when my hospital said they wanted to go green, I brought them the information of what it took to go green with the blue wrap, because you're absolutely right, Derrick. The first thing they look at is all the blue wrap. But the program requires that you hold the blue wrap somewhere until you get so many pounds of blue wrap. They don't just come every week and pick it up. The second thing is recycling. Hospitals sometimes want to go green, but they're not really recycling. You know, you dividing paper in boxes, and they still throwing it in the regular trash. So you have to be sure with infection control that, number one, truly they want to go green. Number two, you have to be able to show them where the cost savings is, as Derrick said, to go to containers, understanding that containers are not meant to be there forever. you're going to have to replace a container at some point. You know, they think that the container and the instruments are supposed to be there till Jesus come back. We know he's
Hallelujah.
coming, but we don't
This
know when.
weekend, this weekend, we
Well, if it's this weekend, we're in a good spot. So you have to let them know Blue Wrap will be with us forever. Because when a container does not meet the qualifications to be used, the parameters for good use, we can no longer put the tray in the container. So we have to wrap it. As long as we're allowing vendors to bring in trays off the street without a container system, we will have to wrap those trays. So to go green requires not only infection control, SPD, the OR, it requires the hospital as a whole to get a program with EBS together to say we are going to be a green hospital and to truly mean it. But yes, we do feel the landfills are being filled with a lot of Blue Wrap. I've seen where hospitals have saved it, and there are groups that take and make blankets for the homeless. That Blue Wrap can do a lot of stuff. They
Let me
make
ask you
blankets.
this. Let
Yes.
me ask you this, SGG.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for cutting off your genius.
That's okay.
But how often do you see, Derrick, you too, how often do you all see where executive leaderships in a hospital say they want one thing, but the action, the support, and the financial backing doesn't seem like they're actually supporting those changes? Like, say, for an example, going green.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them say we need to go green, but the actual time to research and support these things to make that shift is not always considered. How often do you see that there is a disconnect between what they're saying versus the resources they're providing?
I've seen it quite a bit. That, you know, it's like the buzzword of the year. Let's go green. And then you say, yes, let's go green. And then you say, well, the OR is going to have to separate the Blue Wrap and put it in this bag. And then they're going to have to send it to this corner. And then we're going to have to put it in this room. And then all of a sudden, we're not going green. All of a sudden, the only people going green is SPD, who's struggling to try to make a process work that cannot work without all the entities joining in and doing their part. When we told our hospital that we needed a holding place to hold the Blue Wrap, and we could only use the Blue Wrap straight off of a wrap tray. So when they opened a surgical case in the OR, they were going to have to take and put their Blue Wrap to the side, which, you know, that meant that the nurse and everybody's going to have to do that. Everybody all of a sudden said, oh, that's going to take too much time. I got to take the Blue Wrap, instead of just throwing it in the trash, I have to fold it up and sit it over here. All of a sudden, we didn't need to go as green as we thought. So that's why it takes all the entities to meet together and come with their position. I'm on first, you on second, and he's on third. This is what it's going to take. This is what it's going to cost. And then you find out if we truly want to go green. And I will say that right now, we really don't want to go green. We just like saying we want to go green.
Right. And I agree with you, Ms. Golden. Really, the systems I've been a part of, the executives and the upper leadership in the C-suite, they're always on board for any opportunities to cut and save costs in all areas. The challenge is, like you mentioned, is when you can't get the various partners to work together and develop a solid, effective plan without personalizing how they're impacted, their areas, their feelings, and how their departments will be impacted individually. So I think there is an opportunity to go green as long as you change the culture, help the various departments understand the reason, the importance on the environment, and the importance of patient safety. Develop a written plan and strategy as to how we're going to roll this environmental plan out or recycling plan out, and then appoint people from each area to oversee the processes to hold each area accountable. And if you have an effective written plan, you got your infection prevention team and all of your hospital EVS teams involved in this change. I think most executives, C-suites, and leaderships would definitely support this initiative.
What I've noticed is that, and this is just not in healthcare, this is with leaders in general,
Mhm.
is the misnomer that cutting costs means that you don't invest.
Mm.
And it's actually opposite. In order to cut costs, you have to invest to cut
Yeah.
costs. Have to invest in executive consulting, advisory firms, partnerships. I have to invest to cut costs. But most people, when they say we have to cut costs, we just immediately just start cutting everything. And sometimes in cutting costs, there is also an overlap in duties, similar duties, doing similar things for a transfer of knowledge and information. So then you can remove this department, this person, this system with a new one. And so there's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to cutting costs, that we cut costs at the cost of everything being efficient just to say we're under the number. And I want to bring this up, SGG. I think you may love this. There's a lot of organizations and leaders inside of organizations that think that cutting costs or just cutting travelers is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So you cut costs and cut travelers and say, hey, I saved the organization $1.5 million in traveler costs.
Mm-hmm.
And in short, it's a short win for
Yes.
people that are short-sighted at that facility. But when
Right.
you actually think about the effects of that, I'm cutting travelers at the cost of cutting cost. Now I have to actually think about what is our development plan for the people we already have. Now I
Right.
have to think about what is our pipeline from people that are not from this industry, getting them certified, getting them trained, getting them up to speed, and what is the cost of that? And so what we're seeing widespread is, yes, travelers and staffing companies are being cut, maybe because of over manipulation or overgrowth or oversaturation in that service line. But to have the concept that if I can just cut all travelers, but not have a system development, a process in place to develop who you currently have there, there's a lot of facilities. Yes, you're traveler free, but your quality, your efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
you breaking every J code recommendation. Aiming standards is not even aiming no more. It's meme. It's Miami. So, so, and so, here's the thing, especially when we're talking about cutting this cost, is
Mm-hmm.
actually thinking about the cost. And
Yeah.
it makes me think about this. It's kind of like when people are buying a car, right? I'll give you one. And this is going to sound like I'm bragging a little bit, DJ, but just stay with me. I could have sworn, SGG, I wanted a Rolls Royce. I
Mm.
promise you. Oh. Matter of fact, I didn't even know. Just grammar bad. I
Mm.
had no clue when I walked into the Rolls Royce dealership that there were different models. Now listen, hear me out. I thought Rolls Royce was just different than every other business. You know, I thought it was one. So I walked into Rolls Royce and I walked around, nobody said anything. And so I looked at the salesperson. I said, ma'am, because I want to buy a Rolls Royce. Can somebody help me? She said, sir, what kind? What year?
Mm.
What
Right.
model? What do you want? And so what I realized, I ended up getting it. But what I realized was it wasn't until I hit a pothole, boom,
Mm. Yeah.
and the little R hubcap came off. Just the small little plastic thing that rotate. Two of them just popped off. So I'm thinking, oh, easy, $50.
Mm.
You know,
No, sir.
yeah, it's almost $500 just for
Yes,
the plastic thing.
Yes, sir.
And in that moment, 6 months later, I sold the Rolls. But here's the deal. The point I'm making is this. A lot of people see the price and get excited that the price changes, but don't realize the cost of that price. And so I can afford the price of the Rolls Royce, but the thought that every oil change was going to be $2,500, that's a cost of maintenance I didn't think about. So if I'm getting everyone out because I'm only looking at the price of travel and staff, stay with me, DJ, I don't realize the cost of inefficient staff and other people that are in my department that no longer even have that training. And so when I'm looking at the dynamics of cutting cost, I'm challenging leaders to say, are you really looking at price or are you truly looking at cost? Because if
Right.
I'm looking at cost before I remove travelers, I need SIP's next up leadership to develop my current team to be ready for the incoming team. And if I don't have that in place, me just trying to drop the price of the budget of my department, I'm going to ultimately see that in patient mismanagement, surgery delays. I'm gonna see that in debris going upstairs in the trays. I'm gonna see that in inefficiency in trays. It's gonna go from 4 to 6 trays an hour to 8 to 12 trays an hour. Then I'm gonna see in my scope department, we're supposed to be able to process 2 scopes, but now we're processing a half a scope per day, not even per hour. But the point that I'm making is, as we're thinking about costs, not just for green stuff, I really want us to think about, if I take this away, what does it affect and whom does it affect? And are we ready for the maintenance of that? And if we are not, let's be slow to making quick changes, because a lot of it has not to do with travelers or staffing involved. It has a lot to do with the development of the current leaders that are in the department and their ability to properly lead, delegate, create opportunities for growth, and be able to correct people when they're out of line.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say, during COVID, we had a lot of travelers all over the United States. And then when they looked at their money, and after the COVID checks stopped coming in the hospitals and the reimbursements for having the travelers during COVID, they came along and said, oh my goodness, we can't afford the travelers. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Jake. They went through and said, we got to get rid of all the travelers. You must have a exit plan in place, because you get rid of all the travelers by the 15th of the month, and now you just got the regular folk. I'll do overtime for a couple of weeks, then I don't want overtime no more. And now you don't have anybody to work.
That's right. That's right.
You can't pay me enough to stay over. Because what we learned is that a person will do overtime as long as it's beneficial to them, but once they physically and mentally get tired, they don't want the money, because they can't spend the money, because when the check comes, they in the bed. And so they say, look, I don't want to do this. So you must have an exit strategy that says, we will ease out a traveler as we have made sure we have coverage for that FTE, because the surgical cases don't go down with the traveler. You didn't lose the traveler, and they took 10 cases with them. The cases stayed the same, and all hospitals are working to enhance their surgical load. So they're trying to add cases every day. So you can't add, because I don't have the people to do the work. And if I don't have the people to do the work, we cannot take care of the patient. As it's just like the machine doesn't work. Used to tell C-suite, if you don't keep the machine up, we got to cancel cases. If I don't have people to put these trays together, we're going to have to cancel some cases, because I'm not going to stay all night either. So let me just put it to you. Me neither. And I told them one time, I said, when the staff walk, I walk, because I can't work here by myself. So if you lose the staff, the manager, I got to go too, because y'all not going to kill me. So the bottom line is, we said that, Dr. Jake, because we didn't have the forward motion in our brain to say, don't just get rid of the travelers, which is what they did. And then we hit that slump of how we going to get the work done.
Yeah. And I think that also in an effort to diversify the companies being used. So if you have 5 different staffing agencies in one department, there's no way you can build continuity even in a transition plan. It doesn't work. And so even when you're working with an organization, i.e. SIPS Healthcare, it's important for hospitals to understand that, yes, if your goal is to get travelers out, the company that you're bringing in should be prepared and willing to actually help you with a full transition out plan as you're phasing out. But if it's just, hey, let's just get, people up out of here, this is what we're seeing. And what's going to happen is it's almost like this flow, right? SGG, you have, and Derrick, you have where everyone traveler. And then they retract. Then it spikes all the way down. No travelers. And then guess what? It's going
Yeah.
to be inefficient. So guess what happens again? Traveler, 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 traveler. And then there's no forward motion inside of our hospital system regarding this specific subset of the industry. And it's always this up and down motion versus saying strategic growth. If I'm going to transition out, I need to transition out a full plan, which means, remember what we just said, DJ, sometimes you have to spend a little bit more to be able to cut cost. So versus going up and going down, I know I maybe need to overlap my department. So there's a real transition plan, and then my newbies can learn from my more experienced travelers side by side, and then they phase out. Now I won't need travelers as longer term, and I did not put all of the training and transfer of information on just my singular manager that
Yes.
may be playing multiple roles, or my manager and my educator trying to transition 15, 20 people into the department and stay up to quality. It's an impossible task that I'm seeing every single day. And a lot of leaders in this space are getting burnt out from that expectation when it's not a realistic expectation from the beginning. That was
Yes.
good.
I stand
That was
with that.
good.
I'm with
So,
it.
scenario 3. I'm gonna start with you, DJ. It's the quiet physical toll, unseen injuries in SPD, repetitive tasks, heavy lifting, poor workstation design. Techs are breaking down physically. Some are out on medical leave, and leadership is not tracking the ergonomic injuries. And ergonomic just simply means the design for efficiency and comfort of the work environment. So leaders aren't looking at the comfort of the design of the work environment. So let me ask you this question. Here's the question, you all. What changes should SPD make to reduce physical strain and protect their team's long-term health?
So it's pretty much all embedded in what you when you read off the scenario. Really, there should be a focus on getting the right equipment and the proper equipment. First thing I think about is tabletops, height adjustable tables. We're all different heights. Unfortunately, I'm not 6 foot. I happen to be 5'9", so I need a table to be a little lower for me.
That's
But
right.
just having that height adjustable table and the table designed to where things are reachable. It's enough surface space to be able to perform and spread the trays out so that you're not doing an abnormal stretching and turning to perform your tasks in building sets or even in decontam. Some of our sinks are extremely deep, and often you see technicians leaning their entire body over into that sink, all just to grab a tray out and perform the cleaning task. So that's the first thing we need to do is get the right equipment with the right adjustable tops and sinks that can help support our teams. Second thing that comes to mind is how much do our trays weigh, right? Like we got vendors, so you got hundreds of vendors bringing sets in every day, and they range anywhere from 25 some 35 40 pounds, with all of these heavy orthopedic equipment and instruments. So we need to develop a plan and a process to regulate throughout our departments the right weight for an instrument set and hold our vendors accountable to ensure that they follow within that weight of that instrument set. And then third, our teams are doing a lot of work moving these sets, right? So if you got a tray that weighs 25 pounds, most people can't lift 25 pounds. So you're asking that person to lift 25 pounds um, um, 30 times a day. If you assemble 30 instrument sets, let's just say you're working orthopedics and you assemble 30 ortho sets and they're all 25 plus pounds. So you're asking that person to take each set to the sterilization cart after completion. And after a while, that can put strains on your back and cause all sorts of aches and pains to our bodies. So I'm thinking that there needs to be a plan in place to do routine stretching. I see some departments during their huddle, They do stretching and just warm up activities before their shift starts to help technicians get ready and make sure that their bodies are right or are in just in good shape to perform and do the routine things that we do. Myself, I experience signs of carpal tunnel with having to work the old sterilizers with the big wheel on the front of the door. And man, after a while, after about 2 or 3 years, I began to feel pain in my wrist from doing that constant routine turning of those large door handles daily. So it's just the things as leaders we need to be cognizant of that can impact each technician as they do their jobs, and we need to put things in place to ensure that we're stretching and doing things properly, following proper techniques when performing our daily task.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am. Come on with it now. Come on.
occupational health needs to be in your department. You need to bring them in to watch the process and the focus of what your team has to do. Because occupational health has the ability to go to the C-suite and say, this isn't working. The chairs you have in there are not ergonomically correct. They're dangerous. They gave us them rolling stools, people falling on the floor off the rolling stool because they're busy rolling. So you have to have the right kind of chair. You do have to have the right height for the table. I am only 5'1". And so the big thing, you're talking about unseen injuries, Dr. Jake, shoulders. SPD technicians are having to have their shoulders replaced because we constantly have to lift the tray up, put it down, lift it up. The shelf is taller than me. Lift it up, bring it down. So now my shoulders are out of place. Workers' comp is having to pay for people to go and have shoulder surgery. Unseen things. I worked in SPD back in the olden days where we changed ETO tanks without any protection. And a lot of us have had different
Yes.
We've had different cancers. And I say to this day, it's because I was back there with that ethylene oxide changing it. The basic slippery floors that you have to be careful about. All of these things, you bring occupational health in and you say, look, these are our issues. What can we do to make sure that we're protecting the employees and their ability to work in this situation? Being able to teach people something as simple, Dr. Jake, is putting up the wet floor sign when they waste water. Put the sign up so that we know this is still wet. It hasn't dried correctly. Balancing, having it so that trays are weighed upon entry from vendors. You weigh the tray when they bring it in. You say, this is 32 pounds. It's not going to work. My vendor said, what am I supposed to do? I said, you got to take something out. Either you take something out or we'll take it out when we get ready to process it. And instead of 10 trays, you can have 10 trays and 4 extra pieces or 10 trays and 25 extra pieces because I'm not going to let the tray weigh more than 25 pounds. Or you're going to have, you thought you had 4 trays and now you have 6. And you're like, why? Where'd the other 2 come from? All that extra stuff that you had. So we have to protect our employees by saying, we will not require you to handle any more than the standard says, number one. But in order to do this, employee, I need for you to back me up by when the trays come in with the vendor, don't just be over there smiling and saying hello, make him weigh his tray. Make him weigh his tray. That's going to help you. And that's what people don't understand. They sit back and think that we're just making rules up. This protects you from having to pick up a tray that weighs 35 pounds. I've gone and actually picked up trays and thought they weighed more than 25 pounds and put them on the scale and they don't. That's just, it's according to the design of the actual tray and the metal mass in the tray. But I'm here to tell you that when you work in a department where we stay for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and you've had to pick up this metal mass all this time. Yes, people have back problems, they have shoulder problems. I'm not going to say that my job made me have the problem. I'm going to say it enhanced my ability to have 2 back surgeries, 2 neck surgeries. Mm. I'm going to say that walking and standing on a cement floor for 8 to 12 hours a day impacted my knees. So we have problems in this department, and we have to realize it, that impacts employees, team members' health. And the way we want to help them is by making sure we make it, as you said, Dr. Jake, as comfortable as possible, not so comfortable that you go to sleep, but as comfortable as possible for you to do your job in a safe manner. And the best way is to bring it, and it's going to cost some money, Dr. Jake. That's the reason they don't want to bring occupational health in. It's going to cost some money to buy the right ergonomically correct chair. It's going to cost some money to get me some more wet floor signs. It's going to cost some money to get me, I want 2 scales. I want one in decontam, one on the clean side. So it costs money to do the right thing. And that's having occupational health. And then for the scales and everything, always bring in infection control to back you up to say, this is what we need. Otherwise, as I told my C-suite, the employees are all going to be out on workers' comp, and I'm going to have to go home too. That's just it. I can't work by myself. Well,
that needs to be the title, working by yourself.
Dr. Jake, really, I used to tell me, if the employees fall, I'm falling too, because it just don't make any sense for me to be here by myself. So, please help me.
Oh my gosh. So I had another question, but I do want you to finish with this story. Dr. Booty Boo. When somebody tried to have you do something, you was like, well, we about to get sued. Do you remember that story? Tell that story. Let's finish with that story.
So I had a physician that came down to SPD. He was mad because he wanted to do his surgical case. We were in Virginia. We don't get that much snow in the part I live in. So 2 little flakes fell out of the sky, and we started closing down the city, and people started going home. And he had a case he had to do, and he wanted to go home. He had instruments transferred from another hospital to ours. Our standard is any instrument brought into our hospital for our patients' use must be re-cleaned in our hospital. So no communication. We got the instruments, we washed them, we got them rewrapped, we got them into the sterilizer. Sterilizer's going, here comes Dr. Booty Boo knocking on the door. He says, cut the sterilizers off, we're going to flash these instruments. And I said, we don't flash. That's not even a word anymore. He said, the director said we could flash. I said, the director couldn't have said we can flash because we don't flash. So I knew he'd been talking to OR staff. So he said, I need to do my case. We need to cut the sterilizer off. I took a deep breath because I knew I wouldn't get anywhere. I went and got a notebook. I came back. I said, you're right, Dr. Booty Boo. You're in charge, sir. Now tell me again what it is you want me to do. He said, I need you to cut the sterilizers off so we can run these instruments upstairs in OR. I said, well, first, let me tell you, these sterilizers are old. And if I push the button, they may or may not come down because they're going to be mad because they was already working. And now you said stop. That's the first thing. I said, but sir, you're in charge. So tell me again what you want me to do. I'm going to write it down. He said, why are you writing it down? I said, I'm writing it down for the lawsuit. He said, what lawsuit? I said, the one we going to have when I tell the patient you told me to cut sterilizer off and give you the instruments to run upstairs because you're in charge, sir. And he went out in the hall and yelled. And then he went back upstairs. He went back upstairs, and I stayed there and got those instruments run. I took him the instruments when they were ready, and he looked at me and he said, Golden, he said, you're right. He said, one time we got some instruments from a hospital. When we opened them up, they were still dirty. I said, you understand why we do what we do, sir? He said, yes, I do. He said, I just wanted to go home before the snow. I said, I want to go home too. But we have to take care of the patient. So Dr. Booty Boo and I we were good friends after that. He liked me. He knew I was going to hold my ground and talk to the lawsuit.
I do want you to talk about, I know it's a funny story, but in the moment it wasn't funny. You were absolutely right.
It was not. I had to
Yes,
stand up for what was right,
that's right.
even though I knew that I may have gotten the next day pushback from the C-suite. But at the end of the day, I tell them I have integrity and I work for the patient. And the bottom line is you cannot bully me, peer pressure me into doing something I know is wrong, and then want me to turn around after we get in trouble and explain what had happened. I'm
Mm.
telling you right now, I'm writing it down because my memory might be bad. What you told me to say, how you told me to do it, because I'm going to get on the witness stand because y'all already fired me. So I'm going to be on the witness stand for the is it the plaintiff? For the people getting the money to say, this is what you told me to do because it's wrong. And they know it's wrong. You know, Dr. Jake, I've asked doctors over the years when they pushed me back, I've
Mhm.
said, when you took the course in medical school on sterile processing, and they look at me like a deer with headlights and say, we didn't have no course on sterile processing. And I say, that's right. And I didn't have it in your specialty.
That was
So
smooth.
you do the instruments, I'm gonna let you do the knee case. That's how we're gonna work this. I got you, you got me. But they don't think about it because I think that, you know, when they're in the moment and they want to get their cases done, and they in doctor school, there's this thing that says once you get doctor, somewhere after that is your God. I don't know, but you know, they have that complex. So
It has to be somewhere in the school so that everybody feel that way.
yeah, they say, you know, you God. So you come out and you say, you know who I am. I'm Dr. Okay, what that mean? You God? You know, so they have that complex. But when you get them one-on-one, when you put a bully one-on-one and you talk to him, he's not a bully anymore. And he's more apt to listen to what you have to say. And the fact was, Dr. Booty Boo and I were there. And at that moment, we had a little audience that was there too. But once he thought about it, and he knew I'd be willing to write it up. I already had wrote down what he said in real time, that maybe we shouldn't have to talk about doing bad service for a patient. Patients come in the hospital because they have problems to get better. And we should not enhance that issue. I just read this morning, Dr. Jake, about a man that sued a hockey player. It's a hockey player, played for the Timberlands, he played for the Portland Timbers, goalkeeper. He had problems with his legs and they got him to go have back surgery. Anyway, the plates used were sterilized incorrectly. He is now an invalid. He just got a $20 million settlement because the instruments used were processed on an IUSS cycle. Now, we all know that's just wrong. We can't even justify that. I got this because I'm actually going to write something about this. But the bottom line is it's been 6.5 years, and he's had over 14 surgeries to try to help him to walk. And he cannot walk without being in pain. To know that they attributed it after much investigation to the improper sterilization of instrumentation is just unacceptable. So we have to do what's right.
And what I would love for everyone to get from it is standing your ground and knowing your stuff is important, but also how you communicate it is important. And you hear, you know, SGG, she said, I said this and I said that. But SGG, can you break down how you communicate it to that person, and the manner of which you communicate it so that people can see the difference of saying, I can't do that, da da
Right,
da da,
right,
versus in a way that shows people that I can stand my ground. However, I'm going to deliver in a way that when you go back upstairs, you're going to know I was right.
right. So you know, in the moment when he burst into SPD, he was already high with anger. He wanted the machine off. He wanted us to flash it. Because someone had helped him think about that word, because you know he didn't know the word. He wanted us to flash it. That's where he was. He was already high on a mountain. I had to stand there and let him finish saying all that and say, no, we can't do it. That's not what we do. The director couldn't have told you that. Now, he was lying when he said the director told him to do that. That was a lie. But anyway, he knew it. But when I called it out, he still wanted to push because people will push you as far as you're willing to go. He wanted to push. Now, let me tell you all, because people say everybody's not SGG. No, you're not. I took a deep breath and said, wait just a minute, sir. Went and got a notebook. That gave him time to breathe and count to 10 million. Gave me time to breathe and count to 10 million five. I came back with my notebook and I respectfully said to him, tell me, you're in charge, sir. Tell me what it is you want me to do. I'm writing it down. He said, why are you writing it down? And I said, because I have to have this information for the lawsuit. And he said, what lawsuit? And I said, the one we gonna have when I tell the patient what you told me to do, because you're in charge, sir. Ultimately, you're in charge. And I am accepting that. I respectfully step to the side and it's your show. Now, tell me again what you want me to do, because I want to be accurate for the lawsuit, what you said. Respectfully, I've always talked to doctors respectfully. I had to learn over time, because I'm loud anyway. I get a little lower. Yes, sir. What you want? And I always say, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. Dr. Booty Boo. I've never been relaxed with him, Joe. I always say Dr. Booty Boo because I want him to say Miss Golden. And so the bottom line is when you are respectfully standing your ground, they can be angry, but they can't be angry because you weren't respectful.
That's right. That's right.
Angry because you weren't exact. I had facts to back me up. I had policies and standards to back up what I said to him. Now, if he wanted me to cut that machine off, if he had pushed me to cut it off, Dr. J, I would have cut it off. I'd have put the time I pushed the button and the time it was ready. I would have then, after I pushed the button, because, he already told me the director gave him permission to come down there and tell me what to do. I would have made a call to the director that said, hello, we are doing what you said Dr. Booty Boo said we could do. At which time the director would have said, absolutely not. But the bottom line is you have to let people know what the standard is. And sometimes the problem is we don't know the standard and or the rules ourselves. So we can't hold anybody accountable. We going along with it. Yep. You ask your staff, why did you do that? Because they told me to. Who is they? Don't you know that we can't IUSS implants? Now, Dr. J, if a patient is dying, am I right, Jay? It says IUSS can be used when it is absolutely positively necessary, meaning the patient may have loss of life if you don't hurry up and run that little instrument through. So we're going to take the chance that they may get an infection or not, because we're going to save their life in the end. I'm going to tell you that is very seldom what's going on. It's usually because we want to get something done fast, or we drop something and they want to keep going. It's never because the patient is on the table dying, hardly ever. I've never had a case where the patient was dying and I had to come running with it. I had a case where the patient was in trouble, but the piece they dropped, we couldn't do nothing with it. We couldn't sterilize it. There's nothing we could do with it because we had no IFU for re-sterilizing it. So I want people to understand, I tell the stories because I am slightly a comedian, but I want you to understand that the thing that kept me in the business 40 years and got me where my physicians respected me and my knowledge was because I had integrity always. I never stepped to the left and went along with anything that was wrong, ever. I held the standard myself. I held my team to the standard. And then I went upstairs and helped hold the other part of the team to the standard, which is the OR, by saying, we can't do this. And if we do it, I wrote it down, what you said, when you said it, for the lawsuit, because you're not going to take me to a Sentinel event meeting for several days to explain what had happened. I'm going to explain what had happened and why I'm not in the lawsuit.
And I think that's absolutely critical. I wanted you to share that because one, it's important. Two, this also shows the importance of one thing. If you're going to be in any industry, know the rules to the game that you're playing. If you're
Yes.
going to take a job, know the rules that are required of you in that job, past the job description. Also, the things that are help to set standards and regulations so that you aren't getting run through the mud. Because what
Right.
happens is if you're in an organization where the majority of you don't know the rules to the game, don't know the standards, don't know regulation, and they're the OR, the doctors, the executive leadership are so used to pushing down, you have nothing to fight against because they're going to say we've been doing this 10, 15 years.
Yes.
So when you have that one lone ranger that comes in and says this is not the standard, that person can be seen as a standout and a sore thumb because we've always been doing this. And so this is a big reason why you will always hear Sharon Greene-Golden advocate knowing your standards, knowing recommendations, understanding those things because it gives you your confidence. That's right. It gives you your confidence to speak from a place of facts and not emotions, opinions, or feelings. And when you're speaking from a place of facts, not emotions, opinions, or feelings, you don't
Mhm.
have to raise your voice or get irate.
Mhm.
You don't have to get emotional. Most leaders, we get emotional in certain positions when you don't know the answer to what you're being grilled on.
Mhm.
But if I know what's right, there is nothing you can do to make me feel anyway. Take me to the principal office. We want to go together
Yes.
because now you know you're standing for something that's important, which is why continued education is important. not
Yes.
not buying into just people's theories of your craft, but the standards of your craft. You should not know all the quotables of every subject matter expert in this field more than you know the standards of Amy standards.
That's true.
You should be so inundated in the standards that by knowing that you become the subject matter expert yourself that regulates departments from making these said mistakes over and over again. So
Yes.
when we talk about being working overload and FTE count, if you knew how much you can process in an hour based on recommendations and the standards from the recommending bodies, you won't have to say we need FTE count. I think we need more people. You
Right.
can say we process this amount of trays a day. We're only supposed to process 4 to 6. Let's say 6 at the max. We all doing 9.
Right. Right.
So you can come from a place of authority when you're using the information out there that's allotted to you. That's why the conferences are important. That's why CEs are important. That's why trainings on things that are regulatory are important so that you can be able to talk from that space. SGG, you know
Yeah.
how we end every show. I
Okay.
want you to talk to that one person out there, and I want you to talk to that person that is trying to figure out their voice on how to speak up. They're in an environment where they feel like they keep kind of getting talked down to. They're doing an amazing job running the department. What would you say to that leader that is good at operations but may not be good at backing up their information with standards? What would you say to that one person to help them build their voice?
Short and sweet. Listen, team members, I held the book up. This is how you can't really see it. It's the Amy Standards. It's the ANSI Amy ST79 2017. We also have several more. We have the 91. We have different ones. What I want to say is when I say things, I actually have the book. This is a new book that Sips got for me because my other book is the cover is gone because I've worn it out. I don't say things without having facts and backup. So you're doing a good job, but you have trouble getting people to understand when you say IUSS is not acceptable. Say it and then take them the book. Give them the reference to go to in the book to find it and read it for themselves. Where it says IUSS is not acceptable for doing just instruments. Get the backup that you need to do your job. Get infection control to support you when you say IUSS, for instance, is not acceptable. Know that the AORN evidence based standards back up. that IUSS is not acceptable. Know that in CST school, they are taught that we should not be doing IUSS, for instance. When you know these things and you have the book, because I tell people, Sharon, this is not Sharon Golden said. I'm reading a book. They're not giving me any residuals for this. And until they start paying me, then you can say Sharon Golden said. But right now, it's the American National Standard of AMI, and that is who we work by. That's the guidance that we use to help us stay within in the line of the picture, to keep us from coloring outside the line. So integrity you must have. Knowledge. That means you have to read some extra people. You got to go and read some things for yourself. You have to talk to people with facts, not fiction, not fake news. I tell people, if I tell you something, I have the facts written down from, not in my handwriting, from somebody else that says, this is what the standard says. I talk the word standard. So in closing, let standard, best practice standards be your mantra. Get your AMI standards if you don't have them. The OR should have the AORN evidence-based practice standards. Ask them to let you borrow the book or get a copy for your department. And just spend a little time every week reading a standard, understanding the standard, and being willing to use that standard to cover you when you have to face adversity of people not wanting to change. Thank you.
That was a beautiful answer. And to add to SCG's point, before we go to DJ, stay right there, DJ. Listen, we do not use the standards in a way to weaponize the person you're trying to communicate with. If the overall goal is to better the communication and get them to trust you, if I'm using it as a weapon to punch you with it, they're never going to accept it, even if you are right. So when I'm using the standard, when I'm talking from a place of facts, I'm going to show them, and then in a soft way, educate them on why they have to trust you and you have to trust them. The overall goal, name of the game, is not to determine who the winner is. The overall goal of the game is to better the communication and the trust, so the patient will always be the winner and not either or. So what good is it for you to win if the patient lost? And this is the biggest thing that we have to make sure that we're remembering. We're using these standards in anything that you're using as a reference point to back your point, not to be right, but to show them that you are well read, you are well positioned to answer anything, and they should trust you. But then you soften the blow to say, this is why we got to communicate. If you need something, hit me up and I can let you know it's on the standard. So versus coming down here and telling me what I should do, you should shoot me a text or reach out and say, hey, is it in the standard? Can I do this? Let me do the research and come back to you and say yes or no. But we have to work together so our job is better. That's a lot better than saying Amy Standard said and such, I can't do it. And because I can't do it, you need to go talk to whoever. That's never to make that relationship better. Because then someone's going to have to admit to the other person that they lost. Now they get into the education space. Then they start saying how well educated they are in comparison to you. And that's a game that nobody wants to get in. If the overall goal is for safety, psychological safety, one, of your workplace, you want to be free to work where you are and be psychologically safe there. And two, is to better the communication gaps. The better the communication gaps, the stronger the psychological safety within the organization, the easier it is to communicate backwards and forwards when trusting. And so notice what SGG said. She said, hey, Dr. Booty Boo, when you went to sterile processing training, I didn't go through training. Exactly. I did. Just like I didn't go through training on how to perform a surgery. I'm asking for us to level. And notice what she said. After that, they became great colleagues. And so this is something that we have to understand. Don't weaponize the information for the fact of you being right and standing up for all professionals in SPD. You use the information to educate the person, because an educated person makes better decisions 100% of the time. Okay. All right, DJ, let me ask you this question.
Yep.
Now, for the person that is working in an environment that is highly inundated with diversity, language barriers, cultural misunderstandings, poor onboarding, creating real friction on the floor. What would you say to the SPD leaders, and how would you say to them in their inability to create inclusion while developing high performing teams that work across cultural and communication differences?
So, ooh, that's a loaded one. It's all good. So, the first thing I would tell to you as a new leader, the first thing I think you need to recognize is your own unconscious biases that you may have that can impact others, because you then have to learn how to have empathy for others that are not like you. Diversity and inclusion and wanting everyone to work collectively and everyone to feel included, it all starts with the person fostering the environment to make everyone feel included. So whether there are prejudices, unconscious biases that you may have, you need to have some sort of self-awareness or someone in your life that can point those things out so that you can have those discussions. Number two, you need to create a collective, an environment where it feels that everyone can be involved, whether age barriers, religious preferences, or whether it's cultural differences may be abnormal to others. You have to first learn what those barriers are, and then create ways and figure out ways to get everyone to collectively come together, understand each other's differences, and create ways to where we can work together and work through projects and everyone have involvement in those projects. And then as leaders, we need to work with our hospital teams. There are so many programs that support with diversity, with inclusion, with building team chemistry, bonding events, leadership training and development. Let's partner with our hospital teams and leaders and departments so that we can develop those things and get the support needed to target those areas to create collective, healthy work relationships and discussions with our teams. And then create ways to foster it, to keep it going, to sustain that momentum that you create as a leader so that everyone can feel included, love their job, the morale remains high, and we ultimately help with successful outcomes to our customers and our patients. Thank you.
And I actually love that. I love that response because having a diverse organization, people make the mistake in trying to make everyone the same. And in taking a diverse organization and making it the same, then you must ask yourself, who are we making it the same of? True inclusion is to accept people's differences and provide strategies, mechanisms, frameworks that allow for people to be different and work in harmony using their differences, not moving as a one unit, one band, one sound, because it only affects one thing. But if I look at a band or a symphony, everything sounds beautiful because we're allowing each instrument to represent itself for the same flow of the music. And so in an organization, it's like creating a symphony. It's a symphony with all different types of instruments being involved, with the different varying persons that are diverse in cultural upbringing, feelings, emotions, everything. So if I'm understanding that, the true beauty is acknowledging that everyone is different and not saying you see everyone the same. Because the moment you say I see everyone the same is the moment you're discrediting all of the differences that people have. After I acknowledge that, now I have to, as a leader, work hard to try to connect with each and every person's differences or get to know what makes them different and provide an environment that curates all of everyone's diversity so people can feel like they're wholly themselves there and not a fraction of themselves in a facility. Beautifully put, DJ. Beautifully put. So, for all of you that are watching right now, this, of course, is SPD 911. We have something beautiful to share with you. You can now follow us on Apple Podcasts, and also on Spotify as SPD 911. So we'll be releasing some of our first original episodes sparingly over the weeks. It'll be a little bit delayed. This will be the live show that you can catch so that you can be able to enjoy it on your own platform using that. Let's work hard to take this SP 911 to the top of the charts too, because not only is this information needed, you all know the change that it's bringing to your organization and why it's important to tap in every Wednesday. So remember, we now have CEs. We don't have the code now, but starting next week, we're going to have the code moving forward, and you'll be able to get this code for your CEs either after the live show, or you'll have to wait until it airs on the podcast, or you can watch it immediately inside of our community. Either way, we're going to place those CEs there in every episode. Your CE number, the code will be in a different place. So if you do not listen and know where it is, you cannot just skim right to it. You have to actively be listening to it, and we may give it in pieces. We may give you two two numbers in the beginning and two numbers at the end, two numbers after, just to make sure that you receive this information. Because SGG, being who she is, believes in what we're doing with SPD 911 and wants to make sure that you're getting that information back to you too. Until next week, we'll see you all next time. Peace. I think that's the
We're out.